You're listening to 99.1 FM, KLBP, Long Beach, California, Public Radio. We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJC HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and now, our World Broadcasting Tag Team Champions of the World and the Cruiserweight Champion.
I'm Ethan.
I'm James.
I'm Rob.
And this is episode 206 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. Go ahead and find us over on Twitter at Real BTR Radio. Follow James on Twitter at
JHW Reporter.
Go ahead and follow Rob on Twitter at
Rob Flores Media, and don't forget the R2 DMs for Ethan.
Follow me. Follow my my dying last days.
Oh, get over yourself.
Uh,
Ethan's down bad, but that's okay.
2.5 years. 2.5 years I avoided this.
Oh, this is your first time?
First time, yeah.
Wow.
It's in me. It's in my system.
All
So,
right, well, you want to tell the people what you got?
in a case of acknowledging Roman Reigns too hard. They threw up those ones. I was yelling too hard.
So for those
Saturday.
of you who are unaware, yep, they had a Saturday SummerSlam event. Pretty great show, and we're going to be talking about it here today. Ethan, as you can hear, maybe he's not feeling. He's feeling good inside, but you know, he's just emotionally kind of all over the place. Obviously, Roman Reigns did throw him for a little bit of a scare. Well, Brock Lesnar almost threw him for a scare there, but a lot of cheering that I heard all the way from Riverside. Ethan's in Long Beach, and I heard him cheering for his chief, Roman Reigns. So I'm glad your guy got the win there. We'll look at the predictions. Maybe I shouldn't be happy that you're. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who I picked, but anyways, Ethan, I'm glad your guy won. I'm glad that you're. I like to think you're in good spirits, but anyways, yeah, some news real quick. Not SummerSlam, but WrestleMania tickets are supposed to be going on sale, I believe on the 12th. On the 11th, I'm supposed to be talking to The Miz and having another interview with him. They're also supposed to be having some sort of shindig over at SoFi. Actually, remember to let me remember to send you guys the details, and maybe
I'm working that day.
Well, you're not going then. Anyways, I'm that's something I might be trying to get out to, but yeah. Anyways, I'm supposed to be talking to The Miz. So if you're listening to this before I talk to The Miz, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and things you would want me to ask The Miz. You can go ahead and ask me or send them to me on Twitter at JHW Reporter or at Real BTR Radio on Twitter as well. Anything specific you want to get into or whatever's on your mind, Ethan, before we get started here?
Let's just get into SummerSlam.
Okay.
This was the new era, beginning of the new era with Triple H running creative.
Yeah.
Kicked off with Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. A solid 20-minute match, but early on, Becky Lynch got injured. Separated her shoulder.
Was it noticeable at all? Because I don't really remember it, and I'll let you finish talking about the match, but I didn't realize that she may have had some sort of injury, or did I say uh-oh until like the end of the match? And I'll point out where it was for me, but go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until the end. Some people noticed it earlier, but I didn't really pay attention. But yeah, it was apparently early on in the match, and she still had like 20 minutes to go. So she finished it. She pulled through. Good match. Bianca Belair ended up picking up the victory and retaining.
As she should have. Let's go to the predictions.
Sure.
Let's go to the predictions and see what it said. I had Jesus Christ. I had Becky Lynch. You had Ethan had Bianca, and
of course.
And Rob also had Bianca. How did you end up with Bianca? Did you just finally realize that you were making bad choices?
Well, I realized Becky was gonna be the snake that she was, and turn on her supporters by the end of it.
Wow, that's how you feel?
So, you know.
No, how did you really feel? Because there's no way you knew that.
No, I mean, I figured it was too obvious to have Becky
You
win
think
it.
so?
Yeah.
So I don't. So my thinking was, so we were texting before the show, whatever. You wanted me to compile the predictions. I did. And so as I was making mine, I'm like Becky and Bianca, and this was, I guess, even before I knew that it was the first match, but I don't even know if that mattered. I remember I had kept picking Bianca to win and go through her matches, and she won it at WrestleMania, right?
Yep.
So it's a big four pay-per-view. It's been a couple months now. I figure if they're gonna drop it, it's gonna happen at a pay-per-view or at a premium live event, especially one like SummerSlam. But I thought too, big programs, big events like this are going to have its fair share of title changes. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I thought for sure, because Becky is who she is, like she can lose to Bianca. Like, I mean, Becky could beat Bianca, and it's not the end of the world, right? If for Bianca going forward. So I don't know. I went with Becky, but I kind of really didn't feel too good about it after. Like, I think as I was watching, I don't know if it's because I saw the match. There was something about it that made me say, "Ooh, I made the wrong choice." Like in the middle of the match, and I don't know why though. Go ahead. You have anything on that, or you want to? You can
No.
go to the ending.
No, I don't know. It was a really good match.
It was a good match. Do you think it was the right match to open the show?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah,
I think
so.
the thing for me is everything on this card was laid out fairly nicely. And actually, go ahead. I'll let you say what happens next, and then we'll get into my reaction to what happened after. I was gonna kind of lead into it before, but go ahead.
Got a big return
A big return.
One big return, and then out of Bailey returned. Then we got a re-signing of Dakota Kai, who was released in April.
Yeah.
And then a call-up from Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, who was apparently rumored to not be resigning.
Yeah, she had one foot out the door, right? That was supposed to be the rumor, and then I think Meltzer's the one who said something about it, and then they go, she said, and then what? Io's like, oh, what are you talking about? Or what? I forgot what she said, but she was kind of like, not really.
It was a throw up emoji.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so. Which obviously ended up not being true.
Well, not at all.
Oh no, she showed up, and Triple H's fingerprints were all over this.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. First of all, so as I was like live tweeting, and I was like, oh my God, Bailey's back. And maybe I had seen a tweet or something about Bailey the day before, so it didn't completely like surprise me. And then, she's taking her sweet time. She's coming down to the ring, the ramp, the entranceway is really long. I think 70 yards or so, maybe. I don't know, maybe longer. But so she comes out and she gets halfway and she stops and she's kind of chatting. I thought that it was part of the buildup or whatever tension that was going to be there with Bianca going forward. They shake hands first. Becky and Bianca shake hands first. I'm like, okay, interesting. End of this feud, right? And they show Becky rolling out of the ring, holding her shoulder, and then she was like sitting by the broadcast table, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Or maybe they're escorting them out a certain way. They're not coming in the same way they're coming out, or something like that. Or she's waiting for a cart to get her something. But it was at that moment I knew she was injured. But then again, as Bailey comes out, she stops at the ramp or near the entrance, a little ways through, and then you start hearing more music playing, and then you get Dakota Kai coming out, and that was a little bit of a shock too. So I'm tweeting, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. People are coming out. What's going on? And I just think it's those two, and I'm thinking, okay, those two right there, that would be some trouble. I think those two alone could tell a story and really get you invested in something, and they could those two alone have some personalities that can bounce off each other. And then Io Shirai comes out. If I and that, but is there like she's getting a new name change, or there's some
It's
Io
Io Sky.
Sky? Yeah, so they were kind of mentioning and hinting at some of that. Um, and so the three of them are out there. They get into the ring, and part of me just thinks at this moment, I'm just thinking, okay, Becky was just there. They didn't have her go down the entranceway coming back because they had knew Bayley was coming. So they just had to get her out of the picture real quick. So I'm thinking that's the end for Becky. But then obviously when the three get in the ring and approach Bianca, then you see Becky come back. I'm still not thinking Becky's hurt because they play it off well. Obviously, there's no real physical altercation or anything that I remember between the five. And if anything, I'm coming out of this match now thinking there's some, you got Becky turning heel, or no, turning babyface. Now, I'm not saying, I wouldn't say she's going to be in a tag team or some sort, but there's now an alliance there, or a common foe now between Becky and Bianca with the other three now coming in, and I'm thinking we're going to run with that. But it comes out with the next day on Raw. I think there was already some indication that she was injured, but it looks like Becky has injured her shoulder. I think they put it out on Raw where she gets attacked on Raw to help make it out where, hey, she did have an injury at SummerSlam, but the attack that happened on Raw only furthered that injury, and now she's going to be out for a certain length of time. I think they even narrowed it down by saying she's going to be out some months. Like we may not see her back till WrestleMania, if anything. I don't know why, but I kind of had a feeling maybe she was kind of due for a break. I don't know why, but it didn't really surprise me. But at the same time, I don't think I think she really did get hurt. So um again, I just thought it was kind of interesting with how everything was booked. And again, by the time the match ended, I still didn't think she was really hurt. But then when she shows up on Raw as well in a cast, and she from the promo I saw, she was talking about the new era, how she's not going to be defined by anything. She's going to be the one who defies what this new era is and what it is to be the man, and yada yada yada. So good exit promo there for her, and hopefully we get a speedy recovery there for for Becky, and we'll see where Bianca now goes with Bayley and company from here. But I'm glad Bayley's back, and it's only right that she has an entourage or a faction to kind of build around. But I think the other thing I want to mention in this is when I was tweeting, "Oh my God, Bayley's back! Oh, now Dakota Kai, now Io Shirai, what's going on?" I had my good friend Stephanie tweet me and say, "This is Triple H at like you're starting to see Triple H's work," and I didn't even think about that. I had forgotten all about that dynamic, and it wasn't until that was mentioned that I'm like, "Oh wow, this really is like it made." I'm like, yeah, that is a Triple H. Like this does seem like Triple H. And at the same time, I was glad that I didn't think about it or have Triple H. Oh, this Triple H's show during that match, during that segment. I just enjoyed it and thought it was great for what it was. You get some returns to start off the show. It's a big show. I think I tweeted out as well that the atmosphere for this show was pretty solid. I think the outdoor venue, I think there was supposed to be some talk or chance of rain, and the fact that they had nice sun throughout I think it was just the first match. I think by the second or third match, it was already starting to get dark. But this first match, it reminded me of any of the outdoor stadium WrestleManias, which to me helped make it think it was a big event. I almost thought I was watching WrestleMania, to be honest. The crowd seemed really into it. And again, once it was put into perspective, hey, this is Triple H's fingerprints all over it. I'm like, this is great stuff, and this is what you want, and this is what you hope and can only ask for as far as moving forward with Triple H and company. So I thought that was great to see. And I also found it interesting that Triple H was tweeting throughout some of this, and I didn't, at the time, you're not expecting him to tweet every match or whatever, but I thought it was interesting the way he kind of tweeted about, I forgot what he tweeted, but he tweeted something along the lines of like, "Hey y'all, this is me," kind of deal. Like, this is my doing. He had like the photo of the five of them in the ring and stuff. And I thought it was pretty cool and not a bad way to kind of start off your new era in a big event.
Definitely. Moving on to the next match, we had Logan Paul versus The Miz.
Yeah,
This was a fun match.
a lot fun. Yeah, I was surprised. Now, we saw Logan Paul at WrestleMania a little bit. Weren't entirely, it was a tag team match and with the Miz. It was what it was. We'd start seeing photos of Logan Paul training on social media, all these other different things. And then I was kind of in and out of this match a little bit just because I'm like, whatever, this is kind of a gimmicky match, maybe. But once I started to see, well, once I saw the elbow drop off the turn, not elbow drop, but the frog splash or the splash onto Miz on the announce table from the top turnbuckle. Logan Paul has money. He don't need to be doing that. But if he's invested in and he's all in that regard, and obviously he signed a contract, it's supposed to be like 2-year deal or something. Yeah, he's in it. Like, and he, again, he doesn't have to be doing it, but if he's doing it, I think Rob makes an interesting point here in the chat. Interesting to see the table get broken in an undercard match. Yeah, that spot could have been used a bunch of different ways, including the main event, but they obviously had different plans. But I that was a great table spot, and people speak highly of it. So again, too, Logan Paul tweeted out more or less his highlights from the match. And if you just look at the highlights, obviously it's always going to look good. But he did a lot of great stuff. Like, it made me want to almost go back and rewatch the match and give it my full attention. But just some great spots, great stuff. And the thing that I didn't tweet it out, but I was thinking about as I was watching Logan Paul come down to the ring, obviously the Miz comes out in matching green with Maurice and Ciampa, and they show they're unified. They're all wearing the same colors and stuff. Maurice looks great. But when I saw Logan Paul come out, I'm like, he looks like a star. Like, he just looked like, I feel like his outfit, his attire wasn't as good as it was, I think, at WrestleMania. I felt like he was just wearing a t-shirt or something this time. But before the match even started, I'm like, he looks like a star. And he did, inside and out of the ring. So good stuff.
Yeah. When we return, we're going to talk more SummerSlam. We've got the Universal Championship match to discuss. Two names that may be returning to the company that could be coming up very shortly, as well as we might get into a little bit of Raw and some changes that occurred there as well.
Ooh, okay.
All that and more right here on episode 206 of Beyond the Ropes. We'll be right back. We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 206 of Beyond the Ropes. I'm your host Ethan, joined alongside the analyst James Williams and producer Rob Flores. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond the Ropes, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcast from. Before the break, we were talking SummerSlam. We just finished talking about the Logan Paul Miz match. I believe the next match was the Lashley Theory match for the United States Championship. Let's get into that.
Yeah. For me, just like quick thoughts, quick reaction to that was, I don't know the time length, but it went fairly quickly. And it actually was kind of interesting because I think a lot of people knew it on Twitter as well, that the moment Theory was put into Bobby's submission, he tapped out quick. He tapped out so quick. It was not surprising, because I think that was, to me, it read as Theory's just trying to get out of Dodge, just trying to save himself, because there is a potential cash in. If anything, it really, the way he tapped out, got out of there, was like, got out of that match fairly unscathed, made me think he's going to be in a good spot to cash in, and I should expect to cash in, right? Like, that was my mindset. So I kind of knew that was going to happen, but it was also early enough in the card that by the time other stuff happened, I almost kind of forgot about Theory by the time the main event did come around. So yeah, I thought Theory, I thought it was what it was. I thought, they kind of got the job done. I thought the right guy won. Real quick, before you add any comments, just want to follow up here on the predictions. I had Bobby Lashley winning. I also had Logan Paul winning that other match we talked about. Rob had Logan Paul and Lashley winning, and you had Theory beating Bobby Lashley, but then you also had Logan Paul winning as well. So a big fat L for Ethan. And yeah,
I've been
go
taking
ahead.
him all week, so that's great.
What were your thoughts on the match or the direction that they're going in as a result?
No, I agree. It was one of the shorter matches on the card, which is fine. Some of these matches went on a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Not every
But
match needed to be long.
but I think it was still kind of considered a fairly short pay-per-view or premium live event for
It's
what it
3.5
was.
hours. Yeah.
3.5 hours. I knew it was somewhere under 4. And you know dang well if they wanted to, they could have gone for 5 or 6. But yeah, I thought they got everything that they needed in and whatnot.
It was like
And
a takeover length.
was it? Yeah, about and I think that's good. And well, I'll say maybe that's what they do for WrestleMania, but obviously not if they're still having it for 2 days. But maybe you can do shorter things. I thought I got the job done, and the Ethan stuff made sense. Not the Ethan stuff, sorry. The Theory stuff made sense altogether. So I was fine with what it was.
Mm. Next up, we had the Mysterios versus the Judgment Day in a tag team match. Another relatively shorter match, I think.
Yeah.
This was all right. I mean, they had just had a match on Raw the previous week.
And like the week before that, I think, didn't they?
I think they had like a singles match or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And this was no DQ. So, of course, Rhea Ripley got involved. But now without a big return, got another big return. Edge came back.
Yeah, Edge did come back.
Came back straight from hell.
I feel like maybe I prematurely tweeted, but I'm like, ooh, Brood Edge, because they played a little bit of that Brood music with, but it sounded a little different. And it was really before I'd even seen him. And then kind of looked the same. He did have a red jacket. It looked like he cut the hair, spiked it up a little bit. So he had a little bit different of a look, but even on the broadcast team, I think they called him like the rated R superstar or something. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly not doing Brood Edge here, but yeah, I just still just kind of interesting look. We'll see where they go. Obviously, we knew what his intentions were going out there. It's funny because Mysterio and Dominic were kind of like looking like what. But wasn't one real quick? Wasn't Mysterio's mask in that vignette, like in the teasers?
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, we know what his intentions were. Now I'm kind of curious to see who Edge will have a match with or what they do. Maybe I don't know, you don't really team them up with Ray or Dominic. So I'm curious to see where they go with this. And I also saw a tweet that said Rhea Ripley is the leader of Judgment Day. Would you agree with that? Do you get that vibe, maybe?
I don't know.
But would you say, though, it's fair that she kind of completes Judgment Day because when she was gone and it was just those two, it's kind of meh. It was kind of meh.
They needed a third person.
She need, yeah. I think, I don't know, something about it. She's just a badass, I guess. But I think more so than anyone, she fits into what Judgment Day is about. I think more than anything, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think Judgment Day comes off a lot better when she's around. And I think there's part of it is the dynamic that no one can really do anything to her, but she can do things to others. Just because, you're not having a whole lot of mixed gender matches or anything like that. So she adds an interesting dynamic to everything they do. Sure. And just going back real quick, is Rey Mysterio's daughter named Aaliyah?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was ready to throw down with Rhea there on the Go Home show, and and I thought maybe, just maybe, we were gonna see. I knew Edge was coming, so I knew it was unlikely. But I'm thinking maybe Aaliyah comes out in this match or interferes or does something, because she didn't take. I don't know if I'd call it a bump, but she got pushed by Rhea, and Rhea was causing some problems. She was, she kicked I think Ray in the head. She gave Dragon Dominic around, and then she's wearing the "I'm Your Poppy" shirt. So she was out for blood with everything she did in that Mysterio angle in one day. And again, she spiced it up so much more in the 1 or 2 days she came back than whatever I felt it kind of was leading up to what the story became. So
Next up, we had the Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin match.
before we get to that, let me actually get to the predictions real
That's right.
quick. Before I forget, I had the Judgment Day. What was I doing? And then Rob had Ray and Dominic. I'm surprised. And then you had the Mysterios, Ethan. So I took an L there.
Took an L there, not surprising.
Go ahead.
Happy Corbin versus Pat McAfee. Another fun match. Commentators were involved in this one.
Were they?
A little bit.
Wait, I think I got in the car and got food for this match.
Oh Lord. Well, Corey Graves was kind of rooting for Happy Corbin, of course.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And then Michael Cole, of course, rooting for Pat. At a certain point, Corbin pushed Michael Cole down to his chair.
Oh, I don't remember this.
Yeah, that happened. And then, I mean, that's basically it, I guess, of the involvement. But there was, back and forth, obviously.
Interesting.
Some good spots.
I don't know why I don't remember any of that.
McAfee did a swanton on the outside. I forgot what they called it. It was something different.
I think I do remember that. Did he do his backflip, land off the turnbuckle thing again? I think.
Yeah.
He kind of did some of his same stuff. I thought he had another good little outing for himself, much like Logan Paul did, coming off his WrestleMania matches as well. So that was good stuff for McAfee there.
He did a low blow and then hit a code red to get the victory.
That's right, because he did Corbin bump the ref?
Yeah.
The ref got it was old Charles Robinson, I think. Charles is still out there taking bumps. Bless him.
Definitely. Next up, I believe it was the Usos versus the Street Profits for the tag titles.
What was this? The tag match?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think, who's this? The Street Profits and who again?
Usos.
And the Usos. Yeah, I don't know if there was anything about this match off the top of my head that stood out. Obviously Jeff Jarrett was there. Jeff Jarrett got involved kind of early and laid down the law and made it known he was going to be the ref in this match. I think Rob is saying that Daivari helped produce this match. Jeff Jarrett was giving out 5 counts, making it kind of, holding it down as a special referee. But I don't think this match did too much for me off the top of my head as anything different. I mean, we've seen these guys go a good amount of times that that it wasn't anything too different. But for me, I think too, what I found interesting was the way they kind of played up Jeff Jarrett's big weekend without saying it was a big weekend. And maybe we'll touch on that a little bit, but like, oh, busy week for Jeff Jarrett, or Jeff Jarrett has a busy weekend or something like that. But they never, I don't think, actually acknowledged Ric Flair's last match, because we don't really ever know when his last match is actually going to be at this point. But he claims this one's it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So next up, we had Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey. Heard this one was a little wonky.
Yeah, I didn't really get too invested in this one just because I'm like, but okay, real quick, let's get to the predictions just real quick on the Usos, and then I'll explain why I'm circling back. Obviously, so did all three of us have the Usos? I had the Street Profits, and then you guys had the Usos. Oh, I'm not looking good. But the reason why I mentioned that is because up to this match here against Liv and Ronda, there were no title changes. And again, as I said earlier in the show, I was expecting there to be some title changes, and you almost are thinking that you're going to get some sort of title change on a big card like this. So when we get here to this point with Ronda and Liv, I'm just thinking Liv doesn't stand a chance. So she actually ends up doing well. I'm trying to remember, how did she win again though?
And they're saying she tapped out before the 3 count or something.
Oh yes, they did the tap out the moment the 3 goes down. I think the replay actually showed that, and the commentators agree that she had tapped out. She tapped out before they actually counted 3. I think that was the case, and I think you do whatever it takes to get Liv out of that match, because you don't necessarily want Ronda to win. I didn't want Ronda to win. I had Liv winning this match, I think. Yeah, I had Liv Morgan. Rob didn't put anybody, and you put Ronda. So yeah. Anyways, not surprised by the outcome and the way it turned out. I was actually most interested in this match because I was wondering how they were going to get Liv out of there with the title. So they did a good enough job, I think. But I feel like more than anything, it set up another match with Ronda. And who wants that?
No one. No one. So
We'll see how that goes.
next up, we get into our main event for the
Mhm.
undisputed WWE Universal Championship between the head of the table, the best of the best, the end all be all, the greatest of all time, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus that bum, Brock Lesnar.
I mean, it was what it was. Well, I don't know what Brock Lesnar had. Did he have a tractor or he had
Brought a
something?
whole tractor to the ring.
He brought a whole tractor to the ring. I'm like, where do you keep a tractor coming into this match? But you know, I was never a fan of what this match was or was going to be. Just because we'd seen it so many times and I was kind of over it. So I'm at the very least glad they did something different. I thought it was interesting that at one point they used it. It was actually a weird dynamic where they used the tractor trailer thing, not the tractor trailer, whatever it was, the tractor, whatever, to lift up the ring. Obviously you had Roman in the corner and he comes sliding down as the ring is lifted. But now what happens to everyone going forward who's on that side of the ring watching the match? Yeah, they had big screens there, but it's the main event. Did you think about
big screen?
Did you think about that at all during the match?
No, I don't care about people.
Ah! Well, I do. I'm a man of the people, and that was something I thought about. And I'm like,
if they're paying front row, that means they're the top 1%. And you know what? I don't care about the top 1%.
That's fair. I ain't mad at that. But it was just kind of weird. The ring spot is different.
I really liked it. I thought it was different.
I thought it was cool too. And then you even had that. It was like Austin jumping off the beer truck. I guess Brock Lesnar jumps off jumps off the tractor onto Roman. It was a good match, I guess, for what it was. Roman was really, they're really playing into the last man standing aspect and making sure you're getting the counts. I don't remember any point in time where Roman was really getting down. It was really down and being counted.
Oh, there were points.
And there was a whole bunch of Superman punches to try and really knock down Brock, because Brock just kept getting back up. I think as the match was ending there, before they just threw a bunch of stuff on him.
He took a spear.
Mm-hmm.
He took a couple super kicks. Theory came out at one point to try and cash in.
I forgot about there.
He hit the briefcase on Roman, got an F5 for his troubles, and then got beat with the briefcase.
Yeah.
Poor Paul Heyman. The great sacrifice of
yeah. He took a table bump. I
took an F5 at his age. Poor Paul Heyman. He got a hug at the end of it. He acknowledged his tribal chief.
I mean,
something you should be doing. I will be, if I were in Paul's position, I'd be doing the exact same. For my tribal chief.
I mean, Paul Heyman was begging for mercy of Brock Lesnar earlier in the match and got him his meal ticket and everything else. But when the table bump happened, I thought he was going to bounce off the table or the table wasn't going to break. I think Paul's grateful that it did go through that he did go through the table. And actually, I think it goes back to what Rob said earlier. I was kind of surprised that they actually did do a table spot now, because I forgot they had totally did a table spot here in the main event. I thought they did everything else that they didn't need it, but they still did do it.
Roman hit Lesnar with each of the titles.
Mhm.
He wouldn't stay down. He hit him with the spear at one point, and finally he put everything on top of Lesnar, stood on top, remains the one to get the victory. So, Brock Lesnar back to his farm. After
After
the
match,
show, yeah.
yeah, I was about to say.
For the show, he went back in the ring, this cowboy hat, saluted the crowd.
The very top corner there of the ring that was hanging up, and yeah, kind of did a little salute. I'm not sure what his dates are, what he has left on his contract. Dang well they're gonna try and bring back for WrestleMania if they can, especially with it being in LA. But very interesting. We'll see where they go. Obviously, if he was upset with Vince being out, maybe that's the last we see of him. I don't think so, but it might be for some time.
Perhaps. Yeah, so that was SummerSlam in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
We covered most here. I think we forgot. How could we forget the best bit?
We'll talk about it after.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Say it with me, James.
Max
Dupree.
We'll
talk about Max Dupree and Maximum Male Models after the break, right here on episode 206 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 206 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. I'm your host, Ethan, joined alongside the analyst, James Williams, and producer, Rob Flores. Go ahead and find us on YouTube to search up Beyond the Ropes. You'll find over 200 episodes currently uploaded there. We forgot to talk about the second most important thing behind Roman Reigns, of course, retaining his title at SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. The second most important thing was the incredible ad for this water called Life Water.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who was in it, right? Who started it?
I mean, who wasn't in it? Anybody was in this.
Talk about it. Maximum Male Models.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Marseille,
mm-hmm.
Mansois,
mm-hmm.
Maxine, Max himself. Say it with me, James. Max Dupree.
I believe this is like his second appearance on there, because since all the rumors and stuff, I think he came back like on Raw or SmackDown.
He showed up back on SmackDown. He's back as Max Dupree. We're not getting that LA Knight after all, which is fine. As long as I want to see this work. It
just
works.
I mean, it made me just wonder what happened, right? Like, what was the deal?
It was a Vince decision to take him off. So Vince isn't there anymore.
I mean, there you go.
There you go.
But so it was interesting. So this was really the first time I actually seen a vignette or a segment or whatever you want to call it for them live, like on TV. Most of them had been on social media or something, but this was my first time really taking in, like, listening to them talk. Mansoor, or Mansois, excuse me, pardon my French.
And right.
And who?
Marseille,
excuse me. I just want to call him Mace, but I know that's not politically correct. So just to have those guys talk, and then just the way they were interacting, and they were kind of serious, and you kind of had this model.
Did you see all the water, all the juices flowing?
There it was, and then just the way they were
everywhere.
like playfully doing it. It was kind of interesting.
You're crazy. You have to start dumping water on me.
No, you're not. Cut it out. No. Okay. Maxine obviously wasn't a part of it. And then you get Max there at the end
with the nice little promo. I can't show it, but nice little promo at the end with the water.
I thought it was good. Like, I thought it was good. I thought it was good stuff. They got their what it is that they are across, and I thought it was fun. It held my attention, and it made me like want to know. These guys have not had a match on a card yet, right?
No.
I'm curious to see them like as a team. It's just interesting.
I think it's going to be an interesting one. To say the
Like,
least.
and then like it's not like it's going to be a powerhouse. It's not like it's the Authors of Pain, right? So it's like, what is their
Right.
first story going to be? What are they going to do with them? What is their demeanor in the ring going to be like? Because at first it was like just taking in what it was on the SummerSlam segment here was okay, they're serious, and then by the end they're like playful. So I'm just kind of like, where are they going to be at? Like in the ring. It's just kind of I'm just really curious to see how they pull this off, and hopefully it works. I mean, because they've spent a lot of time in this, and you haven't seen a whole lot. I mean, this thing's gotten more time or more build up on it than Edge's return did, right? So it's kind of like it has to turn into something, but I'm just not sure what it is, to be exact.
Speaking of matches, someone who's had several matches, thousands of matches probably over his lifetime, Ric Flair competed in what was said to be his last match this past Sunday.
It's like his third last match, something like that.
Something like that. Ric Flair's last match, it was promoted by Jim Crockett's Promotions. It happened in Tennessee, of course, same weekend as SummerSlam. We had some special guests. We had Mick Foley, Mark Calloway, formerly known as The Undertaker, Michelle McCool were there. Your guy, Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bret Hart was there. Of course he was. Of course he was.
Trying to leech off Flair's.
Wow! Wow!
Why didn't Bret Hart wrestle Ric Flair for his last match? Because you know why? Because Jeff Jarrett, a bigger star than Bret Hart.
It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird to see. Obviously, Ric Flair has to get his color, so he's busted open by the end of the match, and then they're putting him on a microphone and everything else.
He teamed with his son-in-law Andrade to face Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, of course. Jeff Jarrett, who obviously refereed the tag match at SummerSlam the night before, as we mentioned. So he had a big weekend. I had seen some of the promos leading up to this, and they were good promos
from Rick.
From Rick and like the whole story. Like I think TMZ Sports might have shared it. Like they actually built a nice little story behind it.
I really only saw the Rick stuff. Like I saw a video of Rick lacing his boots in the days or weeks leading up. I saw one where he was training and like maybe even like lifting weights or something, and it was kind of like scary in a way to watch. But
I saw those, and then also there was one where the press conference where Ric Flair kind of makes fun of Jeff Jarrett. Saying,
when would they have done the? I guess they could have done the press conference.
This was weeks ago. But he gave Jeff Jarrett 2 tickets front row so he can watch him wrestle, and obviously,
was that the story that they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in the parking lot, Jeff Jarrett kind of it actually started with Jay Lethal attacking Flair because he asked Flair to be on the card, and Ric Flair said, "You're not."
Did they rehash the promo, or was that mentioned, the TNA promo?
Yeah, they mentioned it. They mentioned that they wrestled each other too. And Jay Lethal made him tap out and everything.
Okay. Good.
But no, they during the training sessions, Jay Lethal pulled him aside and asked him to be on the card. Ric Flair said, "No, you're not a guy. You're not one of those guys to be," even though he's training Ric Flair. And so he attacks him in the parking lot after the press conference. Jarrett gets involved, tries to separate him. And then Ric Flair's like insulting Jarrett, like, "I don't need you. I never liked you. Get away from me."
Oh my God.
And so Jarrett starts attacking Flair. He uses Jarrett's heel on Flair or makes him bleed. So that's how it turned into a tag match. They even got Conrad involved during the podcast.
Of course, Conrad's involved.
So it was a nice little story built up. Whatever. I'm sure it's better than the match. I heard the match was very weird.
Of course it was. Of course,
Flair faked a heart attack in front of Undertaker and Foley
during the match. As part of the match.
Yes.
Did they sell it or what?
I don't think so. They were just confused.
I saw a video after the match where Undertaker is talking to Undertaker's talking to Ric Flair, and Ric Flair looks like he's out of it. But it sounds like I was kind of listening to it, and it sounded like it kind of sounded like the Undertaker was saying, "I'm the Undertaker" to Ric Flair, like he didn't know who he was talking to. And I'm kind of like, I hope he's not having to explain who he is to Ric Flair, because I think any other day he would know. But
He
I
thought
just
he was
think
Kane.
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 You thought he was Kane?
He probably thought it was Kane.
Said no. I thought I was just like I was just like, I hope he's not having to explain who he is to him, but it was all good. I'm glad he made it out okay.
He apparently they said he was fine. So, anyways, that match happened. He won.
Oh gosh, of course he won. But then again, I was kind of like, wow, like you're supposed to do the job on the way out, and you can't even do that.
You want to put Jeff Jarrett over?
Guess not, brother.
And Jay Lethal, he's not one of those guys.
Apparently not. Rob saying he wore a shirt to cover a surgery scar. I mean,
he hasn't had a good body in 30 years.
He's been wrestling in a shirt anyways. The Raw ratings are in. So this is for the August 1st show. Wow, we're in August already. Raw had 2.2 million people, and it's considered the highest Raw viewership since March of 2020. So do you think this has to do, and I mean, like, let's not get said, they've been in the 2 millions SmackDown has been in the 2 millions. Raw actually, it did go up quite a bit, because Raw had been 1.9, maybe 1.9, 1.7, something like that. There. Week after week, I feel like those are the numbers. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a jump up. So a good jump there. Do you think that has to do with fallout after SummerSlam, or are we talking about Triple H?
I think people were curious to see the new regime of the first hour was commercial free. So
I thought I heard something about
there's commercial free. Apparently, there was kind of word going around that it was going to be a statement show, which, I mean, it featured a lot of wrestling. There wasn't really anything like spectacular, but it was a lot of good wrestling on the show, which, from Triple H's NXT shouldn't be surprising, because there was just a lot of wrestling on that show. So I think they moved things along well. The pacing was good. It didn't feel like 3 hours. Didn't feel like at a certain point I was like exhausted watching this. So it was a fun show, especially if you enjoy wrestling. Real quick, we'll talk about what the show really revolved around. Two storylines. The United States Championship and the Bayley faction. The Bayley faction, really, those two things carried the show.
Well, I heard the Intercontinental title was also a thing. Like it means something now. It's this just what I saw someone tweet. The U.S. title, Intercontinental title, or like both featured or something along those lines, or matter.
The IC title wasn't there.
It wasn't there. It's the SmackDown title, right?
So but we had 2 triple threat matches. Where the winners would go on to face each other later on in the show to determine a new number 1 contender for the U.S. Championship. We had AJ Styles versus Mustafa Ali and The Miz in the triple threat. AJ ended up winning that. The next match we had Tommaso Ciampa versus Chad Gable and Dolph Ziggler. Ciampa ended up winning that. And then AJ and Ciampa faced off later on, with Ciampa getting the victory. So Ciampa's already Ciampa's a Triple H guy. We know this. So.
He's a Triple H guy. He's one of the longest guys that was in NXT, or was kind of pegged as an NXT guy. And if it was up to him, I don't think he was really ever going to get out of NXT, because he was afraid of how he was booked. Now, he was with The Miz, and we did see AJ kind of run interference and run Ciampa off. So it looks like they used that kind of continue the storyline here.
Miz did interfere a little bit.
Okay.
But Ciampa still got the victory. He will be facing Lashley next week for the U.S. Championship on Raw. So Ciampa's already seen a better outcome for his career with just 1 week of Triple H in charge.
But it would be an interesting dynamic though, because it's like, what is this? How we're gonna get the Miz and Lashley? Because we're not necessarily. I mean, because are we gonna get Ciampa winning the
I think
title?
we're getting AJ Miz. So either that or Miz Ciampa. They turn Ciampa face.
I feel like it's too quick for that.
They could just decide.
I mean, they could. They totally
Um,
could.
The second major storyline, as you mentioned, Becky kicked off the show, kind of said her farewells a little bit, kind of returning to the man gimmick, but said she would be out for a bit. Bianca took over. They embraced, and backstage we saw Bianca's faction take out, Bailey's faction take out Becky. And then later on, during Asuka and Alexa Bliss's match, a few minutes into that match, Bailey's faction once again interfered. Io was about to moonsault both of them with a steel chair, which would have been great. But of course, Bianca made the save, challenged one of them to a match. We got Io Sky versus Bianca Belair in a stellar match. Of course, it ended in a DQ. Went all 6 individuals because Alexa and Asuka did come out to make the save as well. Got involved, so there was a brawl. So we got a little feud going on between these 6 women here, and the Raw Women's division is looking stacked. That was really most of Raw. That's what it consisted of, those matches and those stories. So,
and I'm not mad at it because, again, so the division, the women's division, kind of been suffering a little bit, and so it was interesting because I got a tweet. I was tweeting back and forth with a few people who were reacting as Bailey, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai kind of came out, and people were like, "Who?" Someone said, "Who cares?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "They're like, I don't care about Dakota Kai," and I'm like, "Huh?" But wait, first of all, isn't Io Shirai? Did they say she was the NXT champion?
She was.
Or she was.
She was an NXT champion.
She wasn't. Okay, I wasn't sure if they were saying that she did or what, but they were saying they didn't care about Dakota Kai, and I was like, one, it's kind of a big deal because last we heard of her, she
was released.
She was released, and I think part of that is because she didn't. I think was that part of her decision. I think
suppostoldano it might have been her. Yeah, she
didn't want to renew.
Yeah,
it was like around the same time, a little bit before Gargano kind of did the same thing as well. But so I'm just like, they're like, what is the point of this? And I said, well, one, it helps replenish the women's division because it kind of wasn't going anywhere. You have the opportunity to turn Becky babyface, as we mentioned earlier. You're bringing back Dakota Kai, who has talent, is a Triple H, from Triple H's NXT. You get Io Shirai called up, who people speak highly of her and say she's probably one of the most talented women on the roster or just in the company. But then now you also bring Bailey back. And for me, the fact that someone didn't get it, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it's because maybe they just, I don't know. But I'm just like, huh? That's nothing but good things. There's nothing but good things that came out of that whole thing. And
I don't know.
It was just kind of crazy. But because I kind of had to ask him, like, wait, what did Dakota Kai do to you? But it was just, I'm just like, this is great. I mean, you get to build new stars. You can move Becky over to babyface. So obviously now she's gonna be out, but then you get Becky with the title. I don't know. Again, I thought it was good stuff, and again, just the direction of where they went with, you keep it to a few storylines and use that to run over a 3-hour show, and you allow yourself to tell a story, and you get invested in these, especially when you don't have a universal title or undisputed title, whatever they're going with on the show. Like, you need to get a little creative, and I think that they're kind of hitting the mark there.
Absolutely. Speaking of the women's division, it was reported early Monday morning by WrestlingNews.co, I believe. Sasha Banks and Naomi have reportedly come to terms with WWE in agreement to return to the company. It's a rumor, speculation going around. A number of sites have since reported on it. but they were reportedly rumored to show up as early as Monday. Obviously, that did not happen. But to be fair, they were SmackDown superstars before they left. So perhaps we see them show up on Friday. Maybe they give it a few weeks, who knows? But it is being reported that they are back with the company.
And they may come back with a very loud reaction too.
I'm sure they will. Next week we're going to talk some more Triple H regime. Let's see if see any more updates on SmackDown and Raw. Hopefully, I'm fully recovered by this time next week. If not, well, I won't be here. So, anyways, until next time, this episode has been absolutely too sweet.